Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Out and Equal Global Webinar Series, Focus Country Canada today. My name is Steve Roth. I am the Director of Global Initiatives at Out and Equal. I'm joined by Madison Leroy, our Communications Manager here at Out and Equal, and Ben Demur, our intern. And we have three very exciting presenters I'm going to be introducing to you shortly. But let me just tell you a little bit about what we've got ahead. So we're really excited to bring you our global webinar series. We focus on a different country with every session. We try to focus on countries that are priorities for our partner companies. And most recently, we looked at India last time. We've done calls in the last year on China and India and Brazil, Mexico, and certainly, we didn't want to leave out the U.S.'s second largest trading partner and our ally and best friend to the north, Canada. We know that Canada is a hugely important market for so many of you, for your companies, and we're just excited to learn what is happening in terms of LGBT workplace inclusion and diversity in Canada. So we've got a great call for you. Just a reminder that this call is being recorded. It's a broadcast audio call. It will be available after. If you don't get a chance to listen to the whole thing, or if you want to share it, you'll be able to access the recording. We do encourage you to use speakers or headset and turn the volume up. There's a chat function in the lower left of your screen. You can chat in questions, and we'll be happy to get to as many of those as possible, questions for our presenters at the end of the call. If you're having trouble signing in, just go to readytalk.com and click on Join the Meeting, and the access code is 6946521. And again, the recording will be available afterwards, as well as the presentation. So one great feature of with these global webinars is the polling function. So we give you a chance to chime in, to be a part of the presentation, and we'll be popping up questions throughout. Our question currently, where do you live and work? And so we're wondering if you're logging in from the United States or from Canada or from another country, and we're going to see where we're at right now. Looks like about 70% of you are in the U.S., about 25% more in Canada, and another 5% in other countries, which is great. That's usually roughly the breakdown that we have when we do these calls. We'll give people a couple more seconds to chime in, but yeah. So again, we have 3 or 4 of these questions coming up. So stay tuned, and please do chime in. We love to get your feedback on these. So it looks like about almost 72% from the U.S., 25% from Canada, and 4% from other countries. So that's great. Just to give you a heads up on some other great webinars and events we have coming up. We're picking back up on our town call series. On July 7th, we have a town call on establishing and growing LGBT employee resource groups. That should be very interesting. Our next global webinar will be focused on Colombia. That's on September 13th. And then we'll move back to Asia and look at Singapore on November 8th. We want to put in a big plug for our upcoming Workplace Summit, which is in Philadelphia this year, October 10th to 12th. You saw the video at the beginning. That was our summit in Orlando this last year. We had nearly 4,500 attendees. We're expecting closer to 5,000 this year. It really is an amazing experience. And we're really excited that the day before Summit officially begins, we'll have a full day of globally focused content and programming with our Global Leadership Day. So if you're thinking about Summit, we really hope you'll consider coming for Global Leadership Day. And for the first time, we will be hosting a global dinner that evening for people that are either attending Summit from around the world or that focus on global issues. And that should be a great event. So we're excited for that. We hope to see you there. And then we have another global forum. Our Brazil forum is taking place in Sao Paulo on November 14th. So a lot of good activities, events coming up. We hope you'll join us. We have one more polling question before we get to the real heart of our presentation, which is our speakers. And we're wondering if your company operates in Canada, and if so, if you're headquartered there, if you have a branch or division there, if you have a separate entity there, or outsourced services, or not at all. Let's see where people are at. Okay, this is great. Looks like about almost 80% of call participants companies have some sort of presence in Canada. 8% are actually Canadian companies. That's cool. The majority, actually right at half, have a branch or division in Canada. So great, we'll give people a minute more to input their answers there. And excellent, we appreciate your participation on that. Again, before we get to our presenters, one reminder, if you have questions or comments, you can reach us via the Q&A box on your screen. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our speakers today. So first we have Kim Messer, who is Business Development Executive for IBM's Global Diversity Business Development Organization, and she's focused on LGBT markets in the US and Canada. So Kim is actually one of those rare people whose day job is a gay job. She's a thought leader in diversity and talent management and advises customers on how to leverage workplace diversity and human capital to improve workforce effectiveness, foster collaboration, and stimulate innovation. So Kim is a true expert. We're really excited to have her on our call. She's been with IBM for 17 years through a variety of roles. She's a member of the Global Advisory Committee here at Out and Equal. She's a member of Pride at Work Canada's National Women's Committee and the former chair of IBM Canada's LGBT Business Group. So welcome, Kim, and thank you for being here. We also have Raihan Khan, who is a business analyst with Imperial Oil, which is a division of ExxonMobil. Raihan completed his MBA in '93 and joined ExxonMobil in Bangladesh in 1998. He's had international roles with them in Dubai and Brussels, immigrated to Canada in 2005 and joined their affiliate Imperial Oil. And so he's been with the ExxonMobil family for almost 20 years in a variety of roles. And when Imperial Oil's Pride Employee Resource Group's Calgary chapter was formed in 2012, he was one of the first straight allies to join the network. And then in 2015, he came on as on the board as a member of the steering committee and took over the role of co-chair in 2017. So he's an all-important ally to the community and has been focused primarily on organizing and promoting ally engagement events. So looking forward to hearing more from Raihan about that. And then our third speaker is Eric Leonard, and Eric is the voice of customer business analyst at Xerox Canada. He's also co-president of Galaxy, which is Xerox's LGBT ERG. His day job is that he's responsible for coordinating data management and deployment process for various Xerox relationships. And he's also served on projects that drive customer business across the Xerox technology business. So he's got a lot of customer service experience and both U.S. and Canadian service provider knowledge. He's a member of a number of Xerox committees with a strong focus on diversity and leveraging talent, innovation, and creativity of the workforce. So I might also add we have a great geographic representation from Canada, with Kim being based in Toronto, Raihan in Calgary, and Eric in the Maritime provinces. So we've got a really exciting lineup here for you, and without further ado, we're going to jump right into it, and I'd like to turn it over to Kim.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate the introduction and looking forward to the conversation today. So I'm just going to jump right to the next slide. All right, so before I jump into some of our activities in IBM Canada, specifically related to supporting allies in the workplace, I couldn't help but kick things off in a rather lighthearted way, so I'm going to jump right into my next slide. So I'm sure many of you on the phone are familiar with a number of Canadian stereotypes, a mixture of perhaps stereotype, truth, and nostalgia, from maple syrup, Mounties, hockey, the polite people, Tim Hortons coffee, if you've ever had the opportunity to come to Canada and try some Tim Hortons coffee, although I do think we also have some Tim Hortons coffee franchises in the northeastern United States. But what so many people come to associate with Canada, so many people come to associate these stereotypes with Canada, and quite frankly, still to this day, it's what people think of when they think of our great country. As much as I personally love maple syrup, those images really paint an insufficient picture of our Canadian identity. Certainly our outlook on social and political issues showcases a progressive, pluralistic, inclusive, modern Canada that we are. Polite maybe, but not without our purpose. We've been this way for a long time, and this isn't really anything new. We've had marriage equality in Canada in various provinces since the early 2000s, was approved federally in 2005. We can adopt children. We have federal protections against discrimination. Transgender people are allowed to change their legal gender in all provinces and territories under varying rules. I mean, these are just a few examples that contribute to Canada being viewed as one of the most gay-friendly countries in the world. Of course, there's no question there's still lots of work to be done, addressing LGBT youth homelessness, bullying, increasing protections for trans-identified persons, and there are many others that I could go on and list here, but that's not really our focus of our discussion, but I certainly want to acknowledge them. But despite this, LGBT people remain very fortunate in Canada relative to the rest of the world. And I think it's really important to understand that, and certainly in the context of the discussion today, because it really does shape how we approach LGBT programs and initiatives in our Canadian workplace. And one last thing before I jump into some of those initiatives targeting our allies. Typically when we think about advancing LGBT rights, or at least when I think about them, we see corporations playing a critical role in influencing the politics and the social change in the countries in which they operate. In fact, going so far as to directly influence legislation. This has certainly been true in the U.S. And increasingly in Asia and Latin America. But in Canada, our political and legal systems have been pretty progressive on social issues for some time. So our corporate Canada hasn't really shouldered the responsibility in the same way as our peers in other parts of the world have had to do. But what I do want to say is that we still have an important role to play in Canada, especially when it comes to influencing hearts and minds. All right, so why allies and why now? So this really leads me to talk about why allyship is important to the Canadian LGBT community, especially in 2017, at least from an IBM Canada perspective. So if you think about everything I just said about how progressive Canada has been on issues relating to our community, one of our biggest challenges to overcome in corporate circles, at least from my experiences, is complacency. There is a significant misconception among my straight colleagues and friends that the work is done. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people, very well-intentioned, who ask me why we're still talking about this. You might consider this a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. As most of us who are members of the LGBT community know very well, rights that are won can easily be lost. And we would be naive if we were to think that Canada is immune from changing political tides. You only have to spend a short time on social media to know that there's a strong undercurrent of anti-LGBT sentiment here too. So helping our allies understand the realities for LGBT people is really important if we want them to fully embrace the significance of the responsibility of being an ally in the Canadian context. And just finally, before I get into some specific examples, another reason why allyship is really important, at least when I think about it from a Canadian context, is that we're a global company, as are I'm sure many of you on the phone, operating in 170 countries. I feel that it's our responsibility as Canadians to be a role model for our IBM leaders in other regions of the world who are being asked to take a stand under much more challenging circumstances. So it's really important that, for me in my role, that I make sure that our Canadian leadership team understands, many of them who have responsibilities, global responsibilities, important that they understand that, their commitment to being an ally is one that's greatly valued. And I think most of us agree that the struggle for equality and acceptance for LGBT individuals in the workplace cannot be achieved by our community alone. We absolutely need to rely on the support of open-minded and compassionate allies who recognize our challenges and are committing to breaking down those barriers. So that's why in 2017, IBM Canada had a specific focus on allies. So what were we doing to support this team? So a couple of examples. You'll notice a photo here. It's actually a postcard with a little lapel pin on it. I'm just going to talk about that for a moment. So this past June, we distributed IBM rainbow pins across the country for Pride Month. This is the first year that IBM approved the use of the rainbow design, which leverages our iconic logo. So we really wanted to take the opportunity to educate and inform and even empower our colleagues on LGBT topics. We didn't really just want to hand out these pins in little baggies, randomly to people. We really wanted to create an impact. So we sent them across the country to the site leaders. Each pin was attached to a postcard that you see here with information on the history of the logo design, which, by the way, uses 8 colors, paying tribute to Gord Baker's original rainbow flag design. A few facts about IBM's commitment to LGBT inclusion, and a link to our ally certification, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And on the back of the card, it says, proud to be an ally, and we encouraged our employees to post this card in their office. So we had a lot of really positive feedback. The intention really was that the card would give our employees an awareness and a confidence to speak about LGBT topics if they were asked by a colleague or a client to comment on their pin. The second thing that we did was run a design thinking workshop. And for those of you not familiar with design thinking, it's a framework for solving a user's problems. And IBM's been applying design thinking with our clients to solve a lot of problems related to technology for a number of years now. But it actually can be applied quite nicely to diversity strategy and some of the broader challenges around inclusion. So our team decided to run a full-day design thinking workshop with our BRG leaders, so those are our business resource group leaders in Canada, focused on how to increase engagement. And we had a specific focus on allies and how we could better get them involved in our communities. So we identified 4 key areas of focus, and any of you who've done work in this space and supporting allies probably recognize some of these outcomes. Number one, our allies need a greater understanding of what it means to be an ally and why it's important to have visible and active allies in the workplace. We appreciated after going through this workshop that we were not doing a good job of empowering our allies, of giving them what they needed to be successful. They wanted practical ways that they could step up to be an ally. They wanted opportunities to explore and develop inclusive behaviors and approaches, so they wanted to learn. And they also wanted increased motivation and confidence to become a visible and influential ally. So some of the things I'm going to talk about in the last couple of moments, we'll touch on these objectives. All right, so to support these goals, so this year we reintroduced the IBM 365 Ally Program, which expands resources available for education and engagement throughout the year. So our IBM 365 Ally Program has 4 key objectives: accelerating engagement of new and existing IBMers as allies, deliver a global strategic program, achieve a 20% increase in ally certification. I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. And also to achieve a measurable increase in the quality of engagement by 4th quarter. So the 365 Ally Program includes an online learning module to promote awareness and advocacy, particularly for those who know, manage, and work with LGBT+ colleagues. We had 3 new education modules that we launched with Pride Month this year, the beginning of June, and are available in our global learning program. And I'm really pleased to say for any of you who will be attending Out and Equal, we're going to be showcasing one of these modules at Out and Equal, focused on our trans colleagues and transitioning in the workplace. We also encouraged interested IBMers to complete an ally education module, sign an ally pledge, and then engage with your local BRG. So earlier I talked about IBM Canada being a role model to other IBM countries, and this program is really a good example of that. We had an ally certification program for the last 5 years, and the number of certified allies was very small. So we refreshed the content, and we were making a significant push in Canada so that we can lead the IBM global community in ally certifications. That's our team's personal goal. So while the global target's a 20% increase in certifications, IBM Canada, I can tell you, has an unofficial target of closer to 200%. And there's really no reason why we can't achieve this. And in terms of the global program, we have a work stream that includes a number of Canadians who are creating a platform for showcasing ally engagement. So this will help support both our BRGs around the world who are launching a program to help engage allies, and the program, or the platform I should say, includes an ally discussion forum to help co-create actions that allies can take to be more engaged, and will also include assets to use for communication, guidance, and recommendations for some facilitated events. Some of the ideas we've had are ally hours, a Coach Me tool which identifies allies for coaching sessions, and sharing ally videos talking about how and why they're engaged as an ally. So it's really about showcasing folks who are leading by example. In terms of measured engagement, we're introducing a badge system where allies can earn badges by actively engaging with the LGBT community. And this will be visible on your internal IBM profile, so very similar to what you would see on LinkedIn, for example. We have a similar tool internally at IBM. And the intention there is that our senior vice presidents and the members of our Global LGBT Council would recognize top allies globally at the end of the year and be able to provide them some recognition. So really the key message here is that it's about an ongoing program that engages our allies 365 days a year, not just something that we talk about during Pride Month. All right, I'm now going to move to the next slide, which is a polling question. Does your company offer ally engagement training to its employees? We'll just give everybody a moment to make their selection. Responses are coming in. I don't get to see that pretty chart, I think, that you get to see, Steve, but about a 60-40 split, I guess.
You can just click on skip to results and it'll show it.
Oh, skip to results. There you go. Okay. Great. So surprisingly, a number of your organizations, about 60%, do not currently offer ally engagement training. So I see lots of opportunity here. And I know at the end of the call today, you're going to hear from Xerox and Imperial Oil about some of their initiatives, and I know we're all more than happy to share examples of our training internally, and hopefully we can help your organization move forward on that as well. So I'll just close by saying that for those of you who are not aware, Canada just celebrated its 150 years as a nation this year. July 1st was Canada Day. And I also just wanted to acknowledge that IBM Canada is also celebrating an anniversary of 100 years of being in Canada. So thank you so much to everyone for your attention and for attending this afternoon. Look forward to your questions. And I'm now going to pass it over to Raihan to hear about the great initiatives at Imperial Oil.
Thank you very much, Kim. You're a very hard act to follow. English is a second language for me. That's my first barrier, and the other one is that I'm not very habituated to speaking to large groups of people. I'm usually buried away with my spreadsheets. Let me just quickly start by introducing Imperial Oil, because I see there are a lot of folks here from the U.S. We are an affiliate of ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil owns roughly 70% of Imperial Oil. The rest is listed on the New York Stock Exchange and Toronto Stock Exchange. We have about 5,000 employees, just over that, and our head offices are based in Calgary in Canada. And we're an integrated oil and gas company. We go out and find, extract, process, and sell petroleum products. So the company is over 100 years old, and I started back in 2005 when I first moved to Canada. In Imperial Oil, we have 3 employee resource groups, and Pride is one of them. The other two, one is Western Canada Women's Interest Group. We have the Aboriginal Employee Network, and then we have Pride. And the Pride group's goal is to support lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender employees and their allies, and to encourage awareness and understanding of diversity and inclusion issues around sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression in the workplace. So that's kind of our goal for the Pride chapter. We are connected to ExxonMobil's global Pride network, and in 2012, my coworker Greg Cashin, he and a person from HR, they went and got formal approval to start a chapter in Calgary. And as you can see on the chart now, back in 2012, we kind of were fairly small. At the end of the year, we had about 13 people. But what we did have is a very committed team made up of employee volunteers, and we have sponsorship from our management. So we have a management sponsor on the steering committee of our Pride chapter. We have a representative from the HR department as well as public affairs. So I have a couple of my team members from the steering committee here sitting across the table giving me some support as I walk you through this. So you can see, the membership growth from 2012 to 2015. It grew slowly, but we started doing things more within the people that had signed up for the Pride Network voluntarily, right? And back then, the Imperial Oil head office in Calgary was fragmented into a number of buildings in downtown Calgary. So we didn't really feel like one big family. And that kind of changed at the end of 2015. There were a couple of key events that happened that year. The first one is that, it was the first year that we participated in the Calgary Pride Parade. And with that, it also coincided with us moving to a big single campus in southeast Calgary. So now all our head office employees were in one place, and we had access to these digital screens across the company. So we started promoting the parade on those screens, and suddenly, our network started to get a lot more visibility. We have been connected to a number of the organizations that promote LGBT inclusion and diversity in Canada. So we have worked in the past with Out and Equal. We're members of Pride at Work Canada, and we regularly participate with the U.S. In programs that they do through PFLAG and other organizations. So one of the things that we were able to do is that in 2016, given what we did with the participation in the parade, as well as coming into this new campus where we were able to reach more folks, we grew the membership to about 120. So that was more than doubling our membership in 2016. When I came on the team, one of the key focus areas for myself was growing ally membership and organizing ally engagement events. So we don't have formal training like IBM has, and maybe that's something that we're going to take back to our human resources department, but we do a lot of ally engagement events where we bring in speakers from outside or tag into ally events that ExxonMobil's offering, where we'll do a live telecast of that. The key, I would say that the three areas where we kind of focus, the first one is education, right? So a lot of the events that we do tend to bring in folks to educate our people about LGBT issues. The next one is engagement. So we try to do events where we can bring together both our members as well as folks in the company who might be interested in participating in the various events. And then lastly, we do things to generate excitement, and that helps also bring in new people into the fold. Here you can see on the right, we had a couple of live stream events. One was by Dr. Vivian Ming, and she talked about the tax on being different. we had advanced ally skills offered by Straight for Equality. That's a project under PFLAG, and that was offered from the U.S. and we participated in that. And other than that, we also did our own ally engagement lunch and learns both in 2016 and 2017. We're also trying to get our allies to show more visible support. So just like the IBM pin, we have an Imperial Oil Pride pin that we hand out to folks. And, I'll just share a quick short story from yesterday. I was speaking with one of our managers who came to the 5-year birthday party celebration for our Pride Network, and he went back to his office wearing the Pride pin. And the same afternoon, one of his subordinates came out to him. And this was the first time that this individual came out. And it was not just a special moment for the individual, but I was speaking to the manager, and the manager was saying that in his 20 years in the company, it was one of the very special moments where somebody felt comfortable to come out to him, right? So we continue to, work on this. I think the 4 things that have helped us succeed, the first one is we have very strong management support. They've supported us in 2016 with platinum sponsorship in the Pride Parade, and they've also approved for it in 2017. So that gives us a special prominent place in the parade. We had over 100 people participate. People brought out their families, their children. So we have very strong management support. The second thing that helps us is that we're connected to ExxonMobil. So everything that ExxonMobil does for its Pride Employee Resource Group, we can access that. So a lot of things we don't have to create ourselves. We'll just take those and implement them, especially programs. And lastly, it's basically the very hard work of the employee volunteers who form our network. And in our steering committee, we have about 9 people now, all from various different parts of the company. And what we've started to do is that we have an educational package that now those employees are organizing events in their different businesses, their different groups. We're going and talking about our network. So the last event that we had, which was the 5th birthday party, we had over 100 participants, and that was the most that we've had in the office, within the office. So I'll kind of share some pictures from the kind of things that we've been doing. You can see a lot of the things we do is classroom-based, so where we'll get speakers to come out and whether it's talking about Calgary's gay history or doing some training on ally engagement or ally skills or advanced ally skills. We have a fair number of things that we do in the classroom. We then do things to engage with employees. These are some pictures of one event that we had in our pipeline. Now the pipeline is basically a hallway that connects all the different buildings in our campus, and pretty much everyone has to use that hallway to come and go to the cafeteria. So this was a great place where we had these cupcakes sponsored by our then executive sponsor, and we were basically talking to a lot of employees. And that one event, we got 50 new members for our Pride ERG Calgary chapter. So very successful. And lastly, we have been participating. I have a few giggles in the room as people see their own pictures here. We've been participating in the parade. Our fuels business printed special rainbow colored fuel discount cards, which you can see here. Some wristbands, and these were kind of handouts that we gave to members of the public. Bottom left is a picture of us participating in the AIDS walk a few years ago, and then there's a picture from our 5-year birthday party there. So, again, we have a very small but committed team here working away and trying to grow our membership. And again, I echo kind of Kim's view. The work is not entirely done. And I'll just close with a short story. And, this is a couple of years ago. I was at a bar, and I have a funny captain's hat that I usually wear when I go out for a drink. And sitting next to me was a lesbian woman who came up and struck a conversation with me. And what interested her was that my hat. And she was actually a member of the Canadian Navy. And she worked for 13 years in the Canadian Navy. She was out in the Navy and faced very little discrimination there in the Canadian Navy. But since moving to Calgary, in 2 years, she's been assaulted twice, right? And on one occasion, it was she was just talking to one person, a girl, and this girl's father came and beat her up. And this, unfortunately, was in Calgary. So, the work isn't done. There's some undercurrent of, anti-LGBT forces, even in Canada. So, from our perspective, we want that to be absolutely eliminated. So that was just kind of one anecdote from me. I think that's it. I will introduce the next speaker. His name is Eric Leonard, and he is from Xerox, Canada. But before that, I believe there's a survey. And how visible is your company concerning its support for LGBT workplace equality in Canada?
Great. Thank you so much, Raihan. This is Steve here. I'll just jump in and wrap things up. Good to see that probably about 46% are saying very visible to somewhat visible, but obviously still lots of work to do, with 20% saying not visible and 23% saying they don't know, which maybe means that not visible in a way. So definitely more work to do. Thank you again, and let's, like you said, let's move on to Eric.
Thanks, Steve. So, hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Eric Leonard, and I'm delighted to spend a little bit of time with all of you today and talk about some of the initiatives that we're doing here at Xerox Canada. So Canada, as Kim and Raihan both alluded to, has a long history of being at the forefront of ensuring equality for its citizens. But like many countries around the world, that's not something that's happened overnight, and it's been a journey. And although the headlines that you see on my screen here, or on your screen rather, in Canada are generally positive regarding LGBT equality, there still remains a lot of work to be done, which I'm sure you've picked up now is a common theme in all of our presentations. Marriage equality has been in place for over a decade now, but it wasn't until last year that the rainbow flag was flown on Parliament Hill during Pride Month. Our current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, he's been a tremendous ally to the LGBT community and has ensured there's a renewed focus on equality for all Canadians. And he's even marched in the Toronto Pride Parade for the last 2 years to show his support. Having allies in leadership roles like Mr. Trudeau certainly helps to change hearts and minds, but also to create environments where all people feel safe, valued, and equal. And the same can be said for workplaces, and that's how we operate here at Xerox Canada. A strong diversity environment has been at the core of our organization for many years, and role model authentic leadership by our present and past CEOs have put Xerox Canada ahead of the game in terms of LGBT diversity and inclusion. So I thought maybe I'd just start with a little bit about Canada. As Kim alluded to, we just celebrated our 150th birthday. And although Canada has had 150 years of confederation, our First Nations people have lived here for many years before Canada became a country. Canada is comprised of 10 provinces and 3 territories, and our 2 official languages are English and French. And just for context, the population of Canada is approximately 36.5 million people. And I also thought I'd start by painting a picture of the LGBT landscape here in Canada. According to Statistics Canada, there are 64,575 same-sex couple families, which has increased roughly 42.4% from our census in 2006. There are 21,000 same-sex married couples and 43,560 same-sex common law couples. So this means same-sex couples here in Canada represent about 3 in 10. In terms of self-identification, 1.7% of Canadians aged 18 to 59 identify as gay or lesbian, and 1.3% of Canadians aged 18 to 59 identify as bisexual. And again, for a relative comparison, our total population is about 36.5 million. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that you'll probably notice there's a lack of transgender representation on this list, and that's because currently our national census does not allow Canadians to explicitly self-identify as transgender. So as a result, it's difficult for us to provide an accurate summary based on how many transgender Canadians live in the country. And just for fun, I threw an arrow on there. As Steve mentioned, I'm in the Maritime Provinces. I'm located in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is on Canada's beautiful East Coast. So here at Xerox Canada, we have, well, globally, we have 37,200 employees. And here in Canada, we have 2,500 employees. And through a voluntary Voice of Employee survey, we've been able to determine that approximately 5% of our global workforce self-identify as LGBT. So this has given us sort of a baseline of what percentage overall of our employees identify as LGBT, but we're working to migrate to a more continuous and ongoing method of self-identification through our internal HR system. So we're just going to do a poll. If your company invites self-identification of sexual orientation among its employees, what channel does your company do this through? Is it through a survey, an HR system, an employee resource group, an other means? Your employee does not, or I'm sorry, your company does not allow employees to self-ID, or you're not sure. So we've got some results coming in. So about 30% of companies do not invite employees to self-ID, and roughly 25% do this through an employee survey. So we'll just wait another minute. Okay, perfect. So thank you, everyone, for sharing that. So Galaxy is Xerox's employee resource group for LGBT employees, and we are also celebrating a milestone. We're going on almost 30 years of being an instrumental part of Xerox in terms of our LGBT diversity initiatives. So Galaxy has members all over the world, and we've got a large percentage located across Canada. And our tagline is "Be Yourself Everywhere." And this has remained the cornerstone of ensuring that we're creating a safe and inclusive workplace for our Canadian employees. And it's the credo we uphold with respect to all of our objectives as well. Xerox has been at the forefront of confirming that our policies are inclusive for all employees, and our employee resource groups have been active participants in this process. So here in Canada, here are 5 areas with respect to LGBT equality that we're focusing on and continuing to make some progress inside of. And that's community commitment, advocacy and corporate responsibility, equal policies and benefits, talent management and professional development, and workplace climate. Given that there's a lot that goes into each of these areas, we work closely with our HR leaders, diversity and inclusion champions, executive management teams, and other key contributors. Given the time frame today, I won't be able to talk to each of these areas, but I'll talk to you about a few initiatives that we've implemented here at Xerox. So first, I'd like to highlight something that has evolved into a great event and has allowed us to engage our management, employees, and bring in both partners and clients. So for the last 2 years, we've been hosting an event at our head office in Toronto, which takes place on the Friday afternoon leading into the busiest weekend of Pride. And each year, we've designed the event around a specific topic. Last year was regarding self-ID initiatives, and this year's theme was all about allies. And although it's critical for us to talk about the initiatives that are taking place at Xerox Canada, we'll include industry leaders and partners from other companies and organizations to participate and talk about what works well for them, in addition to some of the challenges that they face. We've been fortunate to partner with organizations like Catalyst Canada, TD Bank, the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, Starbucks, and our fantastic friends at IBM. So Kim Messer has been a great colleague and a partner for us to work with on some diversity initiatives, which has led to some great work. Now, there are 2 key initiatives that help drive this event, but also extends well beyond just this one Friday afternoon in the month of June. And that's the value of external collaboration as well as a strong champion voice. And our Canadian corporate champion and ally extraordinaire, Deanne Lama, who's Vice President of Sales Operations in the Central Market Center and a member of the Canadian Senior Leadership Team, has been a strong voice for the LGBT community and constantly pushes us to ensure the LGBT community at Xerox is supported and that our workplace is inclusive. During this year's event, which took place just a few weeks ago, to help illustrate the importance of allies, we partnered with the Women's Alliance and the Young Professionals Network at Xerox. And by discussing how allies can be in places and in conversations, and how allies can be straight allies for the LGBT community, male allies for gender equality, or tenured allies for the leaders of tomorrow, it was a really effective way to discuss the critical role of allies. The next thing I'm going to talk about is our Global Diversity Webcast. Galaxy has been instrumental in rolling out an annual global business and diversity webcast, and this webcast brings together many of our senior HR leaders and diversity champions in North America. We've led the way by inviting our other Xerox caucus groups to partner in this webcast, and those caucus groups represent diverse populations such as the LGBT community, women, our Black employees, Hispanic employees, Asian employees, our veterans, and our young professionals. Our last webcast discussed the global state of diversity and inclusion at Xerox, as well as our HR community's commitment to ensuring our workforce is balanced, it's diverse, and all employees can be their authentic selves. We also use the opportunity to hear from our senior leaders on how diversity impacts business results. And the other exciting initiative that we've implemented is a Diversity Achievement Award, which recognizes an employee's commitment to fostering workplace equality. We all love a little bit of competition, so it'll be exciting to see who wins this year. But a Global Diversity Webcast, it's a great and cost-effective way to establish outreach not only across the country, but across the world as well. Part of Galaxy's priority in 2017 was to deliver ally training to both our executive team, but as well to our employees and our mid-level managers. And we've been making great progress with both of these initiatives. We have 2 versions of the ally training designed for different audiences. The first is our comprehensive model designed for executives. And in this 45 to 60-minute instructor-led module, we have a very interactive session with our executives, and we talk to them about what it means to be an ally and how executives can be authentic leaders. In our streamlined version of the ally training, which is in its final approval stage for launch, all employees globally will be able to access the module on our internal global education site, and it only takes about 25 minutes to complete. It contains audio, video, and many details about what it means to be an ally, and easy and impactful tools for employees and managers to demonstrate. And both versions of this ally learning module are a great leadership and development opportunity for all of our employees, and it's just one more way that we're making our workplace more inclusive for the LGBT community. So the last thing I'll mention, a lot of what we do is we reach outside of Xerox. We partner, we learn, and we bring that knowledge back to our company to implement. I talked earlier in the presentation about some of the organizations we've partnered with for our annual diversity event, but there's many other key organizations with whom we've partnered. Organizations like Out and Equal, Pride at Work Canada, and the Canadian Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce are just a few of the organizations we've worked with over the years. One of Xerox Canada's former CEOs hosted a CEO diversity luncheon in partnership with Pride at Work Canada, which brought together forward-thinking leaders to advance LGBT diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And we have a long-standing relationship and partnership with Out and Equal. We had one of our former diversity champions, Sophie Vanderbroek, win the Audi Ally of the Year award. We've shown our support as a sponsor at the annual summit, and we've had two of our Xerox employees serve on Out and Equal's executive board. So whether it's attending a workplace summit, an educational workshop, a networking event, a webinar, receiving diversity awards of distinction, partnering with external organizations, whatever it may be, all of these collaborations can help drive LGBT diversity initiatives in the workplace. So with that, thank you so much to Out and Equal for having me sit on this panel today and represent not only Xerox, but also Canada. And I will just throw the hook out there. Please stop by Xerox's booth at the Out and Equal Summit in October and say hello. And we hope to see many of you at our workshop that we'll be presenting in Philadelphia as well. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you to all of you, Kim, Raihan, and Eric. Great job. Amazing to hear what's happening across Canada. And definitely one of the messages that I learned from this webinar is that the work is not done, far from it, that there's still lots more to do, and that sometimes companies just have to get more creative to find out how to get to the people that need the help. And I think we saw in the poll questions as well that there's still definitely more work to do. So we have a few minutes left here, and we do have some questions. So we're going to skip over to those questions now and see if we can get a few answers to these. So we had a question, this is for Eric. Cal Jackson is wondering if the survey that you did was an LGBT survey only, or if it was a D&I survey asking employees to identify various dimensions of diversity.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. It was not specific to LGBT. It was a diversity and inclusion survey. So inside of that survey, we did allow our employees and survey respondents to voluntarily self-identify in that D&I survey.
Great, thanks, Eric. And then Raihan, I think you had this question from a couple people, so we'll ask it to the whole group. Omnoli asks, how many employees does Imperial Oil have at their campus in Calgary?
Yeah, we have about 2,000 in Calgary in our campus.
Great, perfect, thank you. And this is a little off topic, but it came up in your presentation, Kim, so maybe if you could just give us a really high-level answer to this. Robin was wondering if IBM would be able to share just some general concepts about the design thinking that others could potentially apply in their own firms.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to provide you a high-level overview of what design thinking is and how you might be able to apply it to your employee resource groups.
Great. Then we have a question. This could be, this can really be for anyone. Amy is wondering, how can her organization promote self-ID? I know that was not something we focused a ton on, but a lot of you have experience on that. So, and Kim, I know that's something that IBM has done a lot of work on. Maybe you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah. So I saw the question in the chat. It was Amy, right? Maybe Amy, I could just ask you to just elaborate on that. So, how can my organization promote self-ID? So, I think what you're asking is that today you have no plan or perhaps initiatives around self-identification and you're just looking to perhaps promote this idea within your HR organization? Is that what your question is asking? And I'm going to talk while perhaps you can respond in the chat. And if that's the case, I guess what I would say is, a lot of times when we discuss self-identification, there has to be a goal or an objective. Why are we trying to measure this population? And I think that's important to secure the business case. And I think for most of us who work in business environments, we know that if it's not measured, it doesn't matter. And I think too often we hear organizations talking about how they don't have LGBT employees in country XYZ, and we try not to chuckle, but the reality is LGBT people are working for companies all over the world, and I think it's really important for organizations to understand who their diverse populations are, and to ensure that they can provide appropriate resources, training, benefits, leadership development opportunities. So these are just some of the many reasons why an organization might want to go down the path of self-identification. But again, I'm happy to chat about that. Feel free to reach out to me directly.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Since clearly we talked a lot, all of our presenters talked about ally engagement. We have a couple good ally questions. Ethan is wondering, for ally trainings, how are people generally invited to those, and is it difficult to engage people who are not already aware of the issues? So anyone who'd like to jump in on that one?
I can speak to what we've done here. Is that typically we started doing things called lunch and learns, and this is where we would have a presenter come in, and we'd book a fairly large conference room, and then we send out open invitations, not just to our network, but we use digital signs, we use the company intranet, which has a message board there. So we use different forums to announce our events, right? And typically what we've seen is that we've filled up these classrooms with people. So while our kind of ally training is not as formalized as IBM's, and that's something that we're going to take back to our HR department to see what we can do in that area. But what we've been doing is holding these kind of classroom programs throughout the company.
And I would just jump in quickly. I mean, I know Eric's launched this program at Xerox as well, but just for us, the Allied certification training is actually a very minimal commitment. It's about, I'll say, 10 minutes. You essentially just, run through a series of sort of high-level education, terminology, et cetera, and then you certify. And so the time commitment is fairly minimal, but we leverage this in a number of ways. One, we had our country general manager actually send out a note to IBM Canada employees for Pride Month, encouraging people to certify and positioning, and helping people understand why allies are important. Also for our management community, especially, just the story that Raihan mentioned, about that manager going back to the desk with their button on and the employee feeling that was a safe space. I mean, that's why we do this, and that's why we need our managers, especially middle managers, to understand it's very important for them to be visible, to take the certification, and that is a signal to their employees that they're a safe space. So those are just a couple of examples of how we introduce that at IBM.
Great. Thank you, Kim, and thank you all so much. We do have a few remaining questions. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to get to them on the call, but if our presenters are willing, we will send them around, the questions around after the call, and get some answers and post them as a blog posting on our website that everyone can read. So we will do that. I just want to take a moment to thank again Kim, Raihan, and Eric for taking the time to share their experiences in Canada with us. I think this was a very useful call. I hope everyone got something out of it. Just a final reminder from our end, you'll get a survey when you go to log out of Ready Talk. We hope you'll fill it out. Just take a minute or two. Our next town call again is on July 27th at 12 p.m. Pacific, and that's establishing and growing LGBT employee resource groups. And our next global webinar is September 13th at 12 p.m. LGBT perspectives on Colombia. So thank you again for joining us. Hope that we'll see a lot of you at Summit and our Global Leadership Day in Philadelphia in October. And thank you again for joining us. Hope to see you next time. Take care.
Thank you for inviting us.